the GPL, printed solid, and who's not complying. All that and more on today's The First Layer. Welcome to The First Layer. My name is Richard Cleveland. I'm your host here 3 times a week where we explore the world of 3D printing. And today we're talking about a subject that has been kind of in the news this year a couple of times. You might remember back in April we talked a little bit about the GPL. What the GPL is, the General Practice License, and how that applies to 3D printing. Well, recently Creality came under fire by Printed Solid. Printed Solid decided that they'd been working with Creality long enough and not getting the results that they wanted. So they, in, I guess, retaliation, they decided to suspend all activities with Creality. They sold off all of their stock, and now they no longer carry Creality products. And they're sticking to their guns on this. They felt they had a lot of things to do. But what I want to talk about today is what the GPL is, how it affects people. I'm just going to go to my notes here. I'm going to read from the 3D printer known license violators, or 3D printer GPL offenders.com. And I'm going to tell you exactly word for word what is the GPL. The GPL is a license agreement that open source projects use, among others that are available, like the BSD license, the LGPL, and more. The main firmware in question is called Marlin, and Marlin is the firmware that we have on probably 90% of the printers that you're buying today. And that is released under the GPL version 3 license. The TLDR on that license is that you can do the following. And I want to read this verbatim because it's very important. Free to use it however you want, as long as source code is provided to the people using it directly or upon request. You can even sell it as long as you provide source to the people purchasing it. If you distribute it on a physical product, then the customers of that product are entitled to the exact source used to build the firmware on the machine. If you want to know more about the full text on the GNU GPL, you can go to their website, and I will put a lower third right there. We'll have that done for you, so you guys can go and see that. And it'll also be down in the post. So let's go back to the first one. Free to use it however you want, as long as source code is provided to the people using it directly upon request. Now, in Creality's case, they are a company that has somewhat complied with the GPL. They released their source code for the CR10S. They did a complete open source on the Ender 3. Where people now are getting up in arms is that they haven't released the source code now for the CRX. And that seems to be the big question here as to why they didn't release their version of Marlin for the CRX. Now, there could be a couple of things that are holding them back. One, it's not fully developed yet, which if it's not fully developed, they should have never released a printer to go along with it. Two, that they just, you know, as a company, many things have to happen in a company. They may not have the people dedicated to doing that for them. I know that, you know, and a lot of you that watch the show know that Naomi Wu, the sexy cyborg, known on Twitter and on YouTube as well as Facebook, was hired by Creality to kind of be their PR person, and through her help, we were able to get full release of the CR10S firmware, and then subsequently we got all of the plans, complete open source on the Ender 3. Now, the Ender 3, with all the stuff that they released, they didn't need to release all that. And they probably, in my mind, shouldn't have released all of that. They should have just released the Marlin source code that they had for the printer. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. Because now 3D printing is not a industry that is built on rapid innovation. It's an industry that is built on how can I make it better from the guy who already put one out. And I say that because if you look today at the Prussias of the world, Prussia's model has been copied by countless different companies, whether that be on an acrylic frame, whether it be on a metal frame, whether it be on an extrusion frame. Many people have gone to great lengths to innovate, or not innovate, but imitate the original Prusa Research machine, the i3 machine. So this is also the same that is happening in the Creality world. When the CR10 was released, it was a large format printer that a lot of us didn't have access to at the time. It came in at a price point that was great. Yes, it had fallbacks, and a lot of first generation machines do have fallbacks. I'm including not only Creality in that, but Wanhao and a number of others, Tronxy or TronXY, however you want to say it, ANETs of the world. And the reason I bring up those two last ones is because these are two companies that are not in compliance 100% with the GPL. They're actually not in compliance at all. They refuse to release their source code. Why they wouldn't, I don't know. And I think a lot of it, this is my own opinion, but I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of competition that is in China right now. Creality grew very quickly, very fast. They had a hit on their hands when the CR10 was released. Through the community, they were able to upgrade that printer and make it into what became the CR10S. Now the CR10S, other than a few minor differences, is exactly the same as the CR10. Now we move forward and the Ender 3 comes out. They throw everything online. Says, here you go, here's all the drawings, here's all of the source code, here's everything that you need. What that did to them is opened up the door for many other imitators to take that design and now replicate it either for a lesser price and use lesser quality materials, and then causing a sales drop on Creality's part. Now, do I think Printed Solid should have jumped ship on them? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, they are trying. And it is a big company. They have a lot of things going on. There was a recent tour online, we'll link to that down in the description below, of the Shenzhen, China factory where they make all the Creality products. So you can see that they've got quite a few people employed. I don't think they've had the infrastructure yet built out to really handle all the customer concerns. When you contact them, you're getting somebody that A, doesn't speak very good English for the most part. So translating what you're saying to them can be difficult. And I've had conversations with Jack Chen from Creality many times in Messenger on Facebook, and he doesn't quite get some of the dialects of North America. So I had to explain things to him a little bit clearer. Now, can I help get the GPL resolved? I don't know. I can throw my hat into the ring. Do I support the GPL? Absolutely I do. I think that open source software is where we are headed. Open source builds is where we are headed. It's when you can take something and make it your own, and I know this is the closest thing to me, make it your own, and even though that you've taken a design that already exists, but you've done something different to that software, and that software should, and I agree, should be shared with the 3D printing community that have purchased the printer. Does it need to be available to everybody online? I don't think so. I think that it should have been a fork in the GPL, in the Marlin software that is currently up on GitHub, which I believe is 1.9 or 19 point something. But the latest version of Marlin that is up there, which the community continues to innovate on and make this software grow. Electronics are changing. We are moving out of 8 and 16-bit. We're moving into 32-bit architectures on the control boards. So that's going to cause a change in Marlin. That will be freely available in the forks. Whether companies are going to catch up to that or not is a whole nother story. Now, I want to quickly go into talking about what companies are compliant and who are not. Now, the non-compliant companies as of today are ANET, which people buy the ANET all the time, because if you're getting into this hobby, chances are you don't want to spend $5, $6, $7, $8, $1,000 to get into 3D printing. You want to spend a couple hundred. ANET's a great example of that. They don't comply with the GPL. I think that companies need to put that source code, not the hex file. The hex file you can't get into, but they need to put the source code, the Marlin source code, onto their SD card drives that they send out with their printers. That would make it available to the owner or the end user of that particular product. LMY Star is another company that does not comply with the GPL. And finally, Tron XY is another company. So those are the three companies that, and LMY Star I haven't really heard of before. I know of ANET and I know of Tron XY or Tronxy, whichever you want to call it. Semi-compliant companies, and again, this is all coming from 3D printer GPL offenders.com. JG Aurora has released the firmware for their A3S and A5 i3 style 3D printers. The Marlin firmware for the A8 3D printer remains to be released in particular, but they have also not released the firmware for the older but still for sale Z603S and their A7 printer, which use Marlin firmware code inside of the custom RTOS kernel. TiVo refuses to release the source code for their Michelangelo 3D printer, and they're saying here that Creality 3D refuses to release the source code for the CRX. I don't know if that's necessarily true that they refuse, but I think they're just not caught up yet. Now, GPL compliant companies, if the GPL is something that concerns you, these are the companies you want to look at. AlphaWise, Anycubic, FLSun, GTech, Lulzbot, Prusa Research, Ultimaker, Wanhao, and ZoneStar. And those are the companies that fully comply and release their source code online for everybody to have a look at. From a business standpoint, like I said, I don't think the companies need to put that on their website, but I think it should be available to those that are purchasing the printers from these companies. If they put it onto the SD card and, you know, all they got to do is just put it on their flash drives and away they go. I think that would start to quell some of the uproar. I think not selling their printers could hurt businesses. I think it could hurt Creality in the long run. Creality has been pretty innovative in bringing out printers that people enjoy. They're at the right price point. They're easy to get into. The Ender 3, a great example of that. Canadian, it's anywhere from $299 to $330. It's a pretty inexpensive printer. It's easy to put together, and it's all metal, unlike the ANETs of the world, which a lot of them are acrylic. So you get a much better machine for right around that same price. Now, will companies like Amazon stop selling them? Probably not. They're probably going to continue to carry them. You've got the Chinese distribution companies like the Bangoods of the world, the GearBests, and there's another one out there that I can't, it's escaping my mind right now. But those are companies that, AliExpress, thank you very much. AliExpress is another company that is going to continue to sell these products, and Creality now is selling their products directly from their website as well. So Spool 3D sells Creality printer products, and I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon either. Now, Creality does have to play catch up in the community to release their source code for the future and make it available for those people that have the CRX or any future printer that they put out. If you go to their website right now, you can find hex files for all the printers that they sell. That technically is releasing the source code. What they're not done is taken that source code and made it available in its raw form in Marlin. They've just made a file that you can upload to fix any issues that you might be having with your printer. They do need, and I agree with this, they do need to release their Marlin version of that source code so that customers like myself and like you can go in and make changes. Part of the biggest problem that all of these companies have, or 90% of these companies have, is that they don't turn on by default the safety measures for the hot end and for the heated bed. So that's something that has to be done. It has to change. And until it does change, we're going to have issues. And until these companies do come on board and fully become 100% Marlin GPL license, those that are using Marlin compliant, we're always going to have an uproar. Now, with that said, I support the GPL. I've written software myself. I've messed around in Marlin firmware. I've done some of my own builds for myself, and it works. I mean, that particular firmware is getting better and better and better every day because there's such a large community working on it. So people like Creality, ANET, Tron XY, and a number of other companies really need to get on board and release it as it was intended to be released so that we can make changes. So GPL, good. Most people don't care about it. For us developers and us guys that like to tinker, we do care about it. And the bottom line is, I don't think that you should have to drop your product line. Printed Solid, great company. They've been around for a while. They have a great website. They have great news over on their website and great how-to articles. And so I encourage you to go over to Printed Solid and check them out. So with that said, let's wrap it up. I'm going to give you guys a question. How do you feel about the GPL? Do you think companies should be putting it on their SD cards, or do you think it should be made available to a broad range of people, even if they don't own the machine? So put your answers down in the comments below or onto our Facebook page, or you can even send me an email privately if you want to talk about it. You can send that email to Richard at The First Layer, and I will be happy to respond to your email, and we can go from there and have a further discussion. But I do want you to take your answer and put it down in the comments below of this video. Now let's get to the good stuff. Let's thank some people. Let's thank our wonderful staff who volunteers their time to help us get this show out 3 times a week. Brian Baker, Frank Awesome, the lovely Jess Cornaching, and of course my lovely wife Geraldine. Without them, this show would kind of fold in on itself some days, but they keep me motivated and keep me going. Now I also want to thank you, our audience, for showing up and helping our numbers grow on YouTube. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing and liking and subscribing, and make sure that if you're new here, you go ahead and subscribe to our show. Give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down, it doesn't matter. Not everybody loves our content, so feel free to put your disputes or comments down in the description below. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, but at the end of the day, share it and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification so you get notified every time we do a brand new episode. Now from there, I want to thank my Patreons. Without them, we wouldn't be able to afford some of the things that we do. We're working now to build ourselves a new streaming box and recording computer, because the one that we have is really, really old. It's an i7-920 processor in there, first generation processor with, I think, 12 gigs of RAM. And it's pretty much starting to run its course. So, you know, anything that comes into the coffers obviously goes into building that. We are trying to get ourselves a brand new box, up to date, hopefully an 8th generation CPU. And if you want to be a part of that and you want to help us out, you can always go to patreon.com/thefirstlayer and sign up for one of the levels there. If you're not into a monthly commitment, but you still want to help us out, you can go ahead and just buy me a coffee, because I love coffee. And Jess loves coffee. Well, now we're going to get demonetized because we put Tim Hortons on there, but that's okay. Jess loves iced coffee, and Frank and Brian as well all love coffee. So you can go to buymeacoffee.com/thefirstlayer. If you've got anything that you want to send into the show to have us review it and look at it, or just present it, you can always send it over to The First Layer, 230-11929 40th Street Southeast, Calgary, Alberta, T2Z4M8. And we will definitely show that on the show. If you want your stuff back after we've showed it, please send it with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and we will mail it back to you. Otherwise, it'll go somewhere on the set as we finish doing the set. Then, who else do I got to thank? Oh, no, nobody. I don't have to thank anybody anymore. I do have to. What do I have to do? Oh, yeah. If you're a company and you'd like to, I'm so confused today. If you're a company and you'd like to have your products shown off on the show, you can always get in touch with me by reaching me through email, richard@thefirstlayer.com. And we will be happy to, what was that all about? My head?
Roof over our head.
Oh, the roof over, oh yes, that guy. Forgot about that. The guy who keeps the roof over our head and gives us a space to bring you this show each and every week. We want to thank spool3d.ca. They have everything that you need, from printers, filaments, and all the accessories and parts that you may need for your upgrades or your next custom build project. So check them out today at spool3d.ca. Print it right, print it with Spool3D. And with that said, everybody, I am going to get out of here for today. I've talked to you a little bit too long about GPL. Again, put your comments down below, and I will certainly get back to them. And join us over on Facebook. We've got a great group of people over there, and everybody's showing off their models. So until next time, my friends, I will see you on Wednesday for our live stream. And you guys remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. Until next time, have a great day.